an annual event in many cases. But there isn't any technology available today that can be scaled up to address the scale of this bloom. And I think that's what the Premier is talking about, is that there isn't anything ready to go off the shelf. There are small-scale solutions that work in buckets and work at the scale of aquaculture pens and leases that could be applied, but not at the scale of addressing a bloom that's now covering thousands of square kilometres.
Well, one of the other ideas that has come up has been the use of clay. How is that used at times to clean up algal blooms?
Clay's been one of the technologies used more than any other. It's been used for over 60, 70 years in East Asia, in particular Korea, Japan and China, where they've been plagued by blooms going back centuries. So if you add clay to the water, it binds with the nutrients, with the phosphorus that the blooms typically feed on. So it can actually lock up the fuel source, and then it sinks to the ground. Historically, they've needed to use a lot of clay because clay is quite inefficient at binding up that material, and that could lead to a bit of a sludge carpeting the seafloor, which could have other detrimental effects that we're unaware of. But there has been a fair bit of progress working with clays, and now we have these modified clays that are far more efficient. And in terms of scalability, I think that's probably one of the more likely techniques we might see used on a larger scale into the future. But again, not at the scale of this particular bloom.
Yeah, okay. So just on the clay sinking to the bottom, that does sound problematic if it's on the bottom of wherever it's being released. So the flow-on effects from that, I imagine, is that killing off sea life that's on the bottom of the sea floor?
Yeah, yes, quite potentially. I mean, that's been used going back into the 60s and 70s in East Asia, and I'm pretty sure they probably weren't diving down to really test the effects, the downstream effects. But the modified clays are far more efficient, and they can be dispersed as a bit of a slurry, so mixed with water, and then that binds with the chemicals and even some of the algae in the surface waters that then sink down and take them out of the system with a much lower impact on the seafloor.
So the new technology is a clay slurry, as you said. So it's released as a slurry. But again, what would be the flow-on effects of that? Does the slurry eventually disappear somehow?
Narelle, I think that's the problem with a lot of these technologies. They have been used by, in particular,